What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap, discuss, and review the Sandman Season 2. This is the final season, episodes 4 through 6. Okay? I enjoyed it, so let's get into it. Before we get into the review for episodes 4, 5, and 6, I just need to rant real quick. I hate this whole split season thing that Netflix does. I don't know who down there gave them this suggestion, but you suck. Because I hate it. Like, what do you mean that we only get episodes 1 through 6 on July the 3rd, and then episodes 7 through 11 on July the 24th, and then episode 12 on July the 31st. Like, either give me all the episodes at once, give me the entire season at once, like y'all used to do, be normal, or create make it like an actual TV series that's on cable. We watch it at a specific time on a specific date when it comes out. Like, and I'd be fine. But this whole having me wait, it's annoying. It's annoying. My second complaint, the exposure. I get that the Sandman has a dark and brooding type of energy, but this picture that I'm showing y'all right here is my TV. I thought something was wrong with my TV. I said, why is it this dark? Like, why? Like, even when they're in the dark, it's really dark. And I said, I still need to see facial expressions. Turn the exposure up. Just turn it up, okay? I feel like what happened to did y'all fire the people that know how to do proper lighting in movies? Because I hate it. I hate it. Fix it. Okay. Because they don't just do it in Sandman. I've seen it in several other like recent TV series and movies where I'm like, I can't see. Okay, I already can't see without my glasses. I can't see on the TV screen. Fix it. Okay, now let's get into the review. All right, y'all. So episode 4. So episode 4 opens up and Dream is he distraught, okay? He's standing outside on his balcony, chest all out, rain just falling down. He's making it rain in the room because he's upset that Nada decided, I don't want no parts of you. I don't want to be around you. I'm going to the waking world, okay? And honestly, y'all, it reminded me the Ray J music video for One Wish, where he's outside like screaming his heart out to the girl. Mess, bro. Utter mess. So like next thing you know, Lucienne walks up and she ends up asking him like, I take it, or telling him I take it Nada decided to say no, like she's not staying. And he's like, no, she went to the waking world. And she said, oh, okay, we can tell. So then she ends up saying like, what do you want, or asking, what do you want me to do with the rooms that you created? So Dream definitely thought that Nada was going to stay, but that's how you know he's not really like processing or really taking into account how badly he effed up. Like, you condemned her to 10,000 years in hell. The last time you saw her, she asked like, do you forgive me? You said no. Like, and then when you had the opportunity to like sincerely apologize to her, you said, I think. And honestly, had I been Nada, I would have went across that table. He would have got more than a smack. Like, we would have been fighting. Like, we would have been fighting. Okay? Because what do you mean you think you sorry? Okay? So it just shows that he's not really remorseful for what he did. Like, because we see him as the episodes go on genuinely apologize to people, and I'm like, okay, so and I think that maybe that no, not I think, I believe that Nada not accepting his sorry, ASS apology, and actually going off into the waking world made him take a step back and start to like look at his actions like, dang, like maybe she's right about me, you know what I mean? So Lucian ends up asking, what do you want to do with her rooms? He says, erase them. Then he instructs her to tell everybody never to speak Nada's name again. I said, oh, it runs deep for you. Like, you really is like, oh my God, I can't believe she rejected me again. Okay. So, as Lucian is about to walk away to attend to the task that he just gave her, Dream ends up saying, "Do you think my kind can love?" I said, "Oh, so she struck a not a really struck a nerve with you when she said, I don't even think your kind knows what love is." Gagged. He was gagged, okay? And so Lucian turns around and she's about to answer his question. And then Matthew, like the bird, he flies up and he's like, "I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's an intruder." So then we go out to the entrance of the castle, and you see the dragon that's in the middle. He has delirium in his mouth, and the griffin and the Pegasus are kind of like not really gnawing, but kind of like aggressive, being aggressive towards delirium. So the dragon ends up saying, she says she your sister. Is that true? And Dream is like, yes. He's like, "Oh, my bad, bro. Did not know." And then he actually apologizes to Delirium, but she says, it's all good. It's okay. I liked how you swung me around. It was quite fun. So then the dragon puts her down, and then she sees Matthew, and she's like, "Oh, we've met before." And Matthew's like, "Girl, we ain't never met. We have never met." Like, I would remember you. So then Dream is like, "Delirium, why you here?" And she's like, "Well, I wanted to talk to you." He was like, "You have a gallery. Like, you could have just called me up." And she was like, "Well, I've done that before and you don't respond to me. So I felt like if I was in your face, you couldn't turn me away." And Lucian even looks at him like, "Well, she got a point." So they actually sit down and try to have a conversation. You could tell that Delirium is somewhat scared of Dream, and she's like trying to be on her best behavior. And she even says, like, "You're always so mean and scary towards me, even when I try my best. And I'm trying really good right now to be good." And you could tell that it's kind of like hurting her not to be her eccentric and like weird self. And he ends up saying sorry. Dream ends up saying, "I'm sorry. It's not really you. It's something else that I'm mad about." Delirium is shocked because she was like, "You never say sorry. Like, you never say sorry. And you always make me feel bad. Like, you always act like I'm in the wrong because I don't know things that you know." So like, she's really like taken aback by that. So then she ends up telling Dream why she's there, because Dream is like, "Why did you come here?" And she was like, "I want to see if we can find destruction." And Dream is like, "No." And then Delirium's like, "Despair said you would say no." So then Dream's like, "So you went and saw Despair?" And she was like, "Yeah, but that was after I saw Desire." And he said, "Of course." And she was like, "What does it matter who I saw first?" She was like, "Desire told me to let it go and not go looking for destruction. And Despair told me not to go looking as well." And she was like, "Don't you want to know how he's doing? Don't you want to know if he's okay? Maybe he's like you, maybe he like," because she ends up saying that like he abandoned his room like you. And then Dream is like, "No, I got captured. That's a total difference." And Dream is very much like, "Your duties are what you're supposed to do," because he ends up saying he abandoned his responsibilities and he abandoned us. Like, I don't like him. Like, that's not my type of guy. And Delirium's like, "Don't you want to tell him yourself? Don't you want to like ask him? Like, I know why he told me he left, but I just wasn't paying attention, or maybe I didn't hear him." She ends up going and saying like, "Well, maybe he wants to come back, but he's too like prideful to. Like, don't you want to see him?" And Dream is just looking, because after he said Desire, he said, "No, something about this isn't right." So we actually see Dream call on Desire, and they actually have a conversation. Desire basically tells Dream, "I didn't tell her to go looking for him. I told her to let it go and move on and go back to your life." And Dream is like, "You're doing what you always do, Desire, metal." And Desire said, "Your 10,000-year-old like breakup and how you effed up that relationship was on you. I ain't had nothing to do with nada. Just like I didn't have anything to do with our sister wanting to go find destruction. Just send the girl on her way and get back to doing what you do the most, feeling bad for yourself." I said, "Ooh, okay, you ate him up right there. You ate him up right there, Desire." Okay, because Dream was like, you couldn't even say nothing. So Desire leaves. So next thing you know, so Dream comes back after getting checked by Desire, and he sees Delirium had like knocked over her chair at the table that they were sitting at, and she's off to the corner. And I think she was playing with mice, but like I said in my rants portion, turn the exposure up because I couldn't see what was on the floor. So she's on the floor playing with the mice and trying to like, I guess, calm herself down. And she's like, "I didn't think you would come back." She ends up asking him, "Where were you?" And Dream said, "I was talking to Desire." And she's like, "Oh." And so Dream was like, "Okay, let's go find destruction." So Delirium is excited, and Dream is like, so how will we find destruction? Like, how do you think we should go about it? She pulls out this list, and it says the lawyer, the dancing lady, and some other person. And he's like, okay. So they decide to go to the waking world. Lucian is like, this is not a good idea. Nada just left, and if she sees you in the waking world, she's gonna think you're stalking her. Dream is talking about, it might be fate. I said, girl, it's giving creep, like she said, stalker. It's giving stalker. Okay, sir. And so Dream is like, it's good. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be okay. All the while, Delirium really thinks that Dream is trying to help her find destruction, but he's just hoping to run into Nada while they are, out in the waking world. So they leave. They end up trying to find a guy by the name of Pheromone, who used to be or still is a deity, but it's kind of like American Gods. He's not as powerful as he used to be. He now goes by the name of Farewell, and we end up seeing that he has like this car service business. So they get introduced to a lady by the name of Wanda. And I was so gagged when I saw India Moore. I said, is that Angel Evangelista? I misposed. I was so excited to see her. I said, come on, India. So they get this really nice car, and they're in the car, and they're looking for the first person, which is the lawyer. It's a guy by the name of Bernie Carpax. And we find out that Bernie is like 12,000 years old. He's a human. He remembers like saber-toothed tigers, mammoths, and all of that stuff. I wish they would have explained how he still is living, and he's not immortal. He is a mortal. Dream ends up saying there's only like 60 like mortals who still remember like the prehistoric age and stuff like that. So as he's on the phone and he's like talking to, I guess, one of his clients, he's in New York walking through like these busy streets. There's construction going on, and then a pile of bricks fall on him. I said, oh, that's a problem. That is a problem, okay? So he is dead, and we see Death pull up, and he's like, are you serious? It was an accident. I'm like, for real? I got 12,000 years, and I go out like this? And she was like, yeah, you go. Let's go. Let's go. So they leave. So we then end up seeing them go to Bernie's apartment, and his son opens the door and informs them that unfortunately he died by an accident. Dream is freaked out because he's like, that's not a coincidence. Delirium thinks it's a coincidence, but Dream is like, you don't think it's kind of odd? We're going to look for this person, and this happens. Before we actually see Bernie die, we actually get a scene of destruction with his dog Barnabas, and he's on this really beautiful island. He's painting, and next thing you know, Barnabas hears something and tells him, because he can speak, that he's like, there's some type of danger. There's something rustling in that room you have out back, or in that shed you have out back. So destruction is like, I bet. So we see destruction, and he actually has a gallery as well, but he also has a scrying like pool that is basically alerting him that trouble's coming, basically warning him that Dream and Delirium is looking for him, because Barnabas is like, why? Like, what kind of trouble? And he was like, not good trouble. Okay, it's not good. But we do see that, again, destruction does not want to be found. So now we see them going to look for the dancing lady. And before they get there, they actually end up saying that they're hungry. So Wanda is like, oh, I know a place that we can go to. And Dream specifically asks for a place where travelers would go. So a bar where, like, not the locals. Yeah, Wanda takes them to this restaurant, and they're sitting down, and she's admiring how Dream and Delirium are two different like people. And she was like, I think it's so great that you guys are siblings and y'all are able to like just be yourselves without like speaking to one another, and it's not no like awkward tension or anything. And so Delirium ends up asking her, do you have siblings? She was like, I have a brother. She was like, is your brother mean and moody and thinks he knows everything? And Wanda was like, yes, but I don't speak to my brother anymore. So then Dream is like, why not? And Wanda ends up saying he used to take those types of frustrations out on me when he was angry with me. On top of that, I started hormone therapy when I was 15. So we find out that Wanda is a transgender woman. that at 15 years old, she started getting hormones from the black market and she ran away from home. And they were like, did you leave your family a note? Did you tell them? She was like, no, I left a note. She was like, I kind of keep in touch with my aunt, but like, honestly, what I truly miss is my books. Because Dream ends up asking, like, do you miss your family? And she was like, I do, but I really miss my books. She was like, Wizard of Oz used to be the series of Wizard of Oz used to be one of my favorite series. And so Delirium's like, oh, Judy Garland used to come to my room all the time, like all the time. And I think she ends up saying that the Marvelous Wizard of Oz is like a transgender story where it's like an LGBTQIA story where it's like there was a boy named Tip who was enchanted, but turns out it was a princess. And she was just like, I missed that book. So then Dream ends up saying, like, what if your family asked you to come back? Would you come back? And Wanda was like, no. She was like, I am happy with who I am, but it would be nice to see them. And I would let them know that I'm a grown woman now living in my truth. So Dream is looking at Delirium like, see, like proof that we probably should not be looking for destruction. So then they actually pull up to this strip club and they meet Ishtar, who used to be the goddess of, I think, like war, love, and fertility. But she's a strip club dancer now. So they pull up into this like strip club, and it's not even a good strip club, girl. It's not no Magic City. It's not no King of Diamonds, all right? It's one of them like cheap looking strip clubs. I said, girl, you couldn't get you one of them good strip clubs where you was making money. But they get up in there. Ishtar sees Dream and she is scared. She looks scared in the eyes. She doesn't even really dance for real, for real. She do like a 1-2 and then she immediately like runs to her dressing room. She like takes off her wig and she's like wiping off her makeup, trying to get herself together. And Dream is like, hey girl. And she's like, oh. And so they start talking. We found out that Ishtar used to be Destruction's girlfriend. And she doesn't like Dream because we find out that Dream told Destruction that Ishtar was like a bad influence on him and that he should, stay away from her. And so she was like, what did I ever do to make you hate me? And Dream was like, I don't hate you. And it was interesting to see, like, throughout the last 3 episodes, that Dream started to realize that his behavior does affect people, because he was pretty taken aback when she was like, why do you hate me? Like, why do you hate me? And he was like, I don't hate you. But then he starts to explain that I'm here to warn you because it looks like people are being harmed that are close to destruction. We're looking for him, and anybody that is a link to him is being killed. And she was like, well, why come to me? Why would you come to me? Then she ends up telling Dream, I truly loved your brother and you ruined that for us. So then she lights this candle, and mind you, it is right underneath curtains. And I said, oh, this place is about to catch on fire. This place is about to catch on fire. So then Ishtar goes out there, but she's not in her getup that she was wearing on stage. Like she goes out there with no wig on, no like bustier with glitter and all of that stuff. She has on this like white outfit. And she walks out there and she basically tells Dream before she walks out there that if I'm going to die, I'm going to die as myself. If I survive, then I will truly live as the God that I used to be. But if I don't, at least I die being me. And I said, okay, girl. So she gets up there and just starts dancing, and everybody is mesmerized, even the other strippers. And Dream is like noticing the fire that's coming out, but he's also slightly mesmerized. And then he looks up and the gas in the pipes is bursting. And he tells Delirium, we have to run. And next thing you know, it blows up. I said, oh, Jesus. And then that's how episode 4 ends. Episode 5 opens up, and it's the aftermath after the strip club blew up. Everybody is gone, okay, except for Dream and Delirium. Delirium is the first one to like wake up and be like, Dream, Wanda, where are you? And when she finds Wanda and Dream is beside Wanda's body, like horrified at the fact that like all these people just passed away and just, they just blew up. So Desire is so pissed. They pull up and they was like, you just destroyed one of my houses of worship. Like, why would you do this? Why would you do this? So Desire is pissed. Desire is really pissed at Dream. And Desire tries to like really get at Dream first, but then Delirium jumps in, and Delirium's like, don't be Don't be mad at him. It's my fault. It's my fault. I'm the one that asked him to come with me to find destruction. And Desire is like, girl, pipe down. It's his fault because he's not even here to really help you find destruction. He actually only went on this quest with you because he was hoping to bump into Nada. So Delirium is taken back and is like, are you serious? And Dream is like, yeah, girl, it's true. So then as Desire is about to get into like full gear and just start going off and chastising Dream, Dream is like, don't chastise me. Don't you ever chastise me. And then Desire ends up saying, if this was me and I did something like this, you would be reading me my rights. So how dare you? So now Delirium is sitting there getting more and more frustrated and angry because she's just like, you really didn't want to just genuinely help me. So she says, you know what? Destruction had it right. Like, I get why he left. Like, I get why nobody wants to be a part of this family. And she gets so upset that, like, she runs off to her room and basically tells them, don't find me, leave me alone. So then Desire tells Dream, like, you are so selfish. And you know what? I'm done with you too. And I was like, I think Dream would be okay with you being done with them, Desire. I don't think he cared about you like that. But Desire storms off as well. As the episode continues, we start to see Dream start to reconsider his actions because he's like, he's never seen Delirium that angry before or that hurt. So we actually see a scene of him at Wanda's funeral. When I tell you her family pissed me off because not only could they not respect her as a child to the point where she ran away, now in death, they're also disrespecting her. They put Alvin on her tombstone. The aunt kept calling her Alvin, and when they put her in the casket, they shaved her head and put her in a suit. I said, y'all just couldn't give her a bit of decency and respect even in death? Like, you haven't seen her for years. She ran away from home at 15, and when you had the opportunity to at least bury her with respect, love, and care, you shitted on that. If I was her friend and I was at that funeral, when I tell you I would have raised hell, because what you will not do is disrespect people, especially like you could have gave her this little thing. Like, oh my gosh, like that's just a bare minimum. So we see Dream kind of in the back, and we actually see Wanda's aunt pull up to him, and she's like, you must be friends with Alvin. Dream is like, who the hell is Alvin? Who is Alvin? And she's like, oh, you know, Alvin used to love reading books. You know, Alvin wasn't really happy. And so then it clicks with Dream. Oh, you're talking about Wanda. Okay. So we find out that Dream actually contacted Wanda's aunt and asked for the, you know, the marvelous, you know, Wizard of Oz. So he could put the book on Wanda's tombstone. So then the aunt actually knew what she was doing was wrong because she ends up trying to justify why they like shaved Wanda's, my bad, why they actually like shaved Wanda's head, put her in a suit, and put Alvin on her tombstone. Talking about these are church people. Church people are not. You respect people in death, especially if they aren't bad or horrible people. You give those type of people respect. You know what I mean? So I was like, that annoyed me. I said, that's nasty. That is so nasty. So then, like I said, the aunt knew what she was doing was wrong because she was trying to justify what they did to Wanda, because she ends up asking Dream, was Wanda happy? Because Alvin wasn't happy. And Dream says Wanda was who she truly wanted to be. And so the aunt kind of smiles, like happy to hear that. But I was like, you still trash, lady, for dead naming that lady. Okay. And that's just not respecting people. So we actually see Dream and Death at Wanda's tombstone. And he ends up changing Alvin to Wanda, which I was like, okay, you get 1 point, Dream. You get a point right there. You get 1 point right there, okay? And he feels bad that he caused or helped cause Wanda's death. So he puts the book on her tombstone, and then as Dream and Death are speaking, Death basically tells Dream, you need to go talk to Delirium. And Dream is like, I don't want to do that. And when I tell you, again, Death has to gentle parent her little brother, and she's like, you hurt her feelings. And I've never seen Delirium that upset. You should go speak to her. Make sure she's okay. Make sure she's okay. Apologize and mean it. And so they open up the door to Delirium's realm, and Dream looks at her, even like a little brother. Can you come with me? And she's like, no. And he's like, She was like, just own what you did and apologize. So we actually see Dream like walk through into Delirium's realm, and then we see Death go and speak to Wanda. And Wanda just talks about how, I used to hate Kansas, but it's so beautiful here right now. She was like, I'm just going to miss my body because I had so much fun in it. And so Death is like, are you ready to go? And Wanda said, I guess so. And so, she does her job and she takes her away. So we actually see Dream in Delirium's realm. I said, it's a lot going on. Basically, he ends up in a subway, like an actual, like, is it called a subway? Or because, like, I'm from the DMV. We call it a metro. Okay. So he's on I'm going to go just call it a metro. He's on the metro. And in each different cart of the metro, because I think that's what they call them, a train has carts. Each time he moves, he can see Delirium. So the first one he's in, it's a bunch of men with no mouths just moving. It made me uncomfortable. It made me think of, is it called The Hills Have Eyes? Either way, I didn't like it. Okay, I was like, what the hell is this? Okay, then he gets to the next card because he's chasing after Delirium, and it's a lot of BDSM orgy type stuff going on. I said, okay, Delirium, is this what you into? like I said, this a lot. And while he's in there, he actually sees Nada all laced up, and he feeling it. But then he sees his sister running, so he runs after her. And the next cart he's in is like flowers. It's like it kind of looks like it's like leading into a forest area, and he's like touching things, and like mushrooms are growing, plants are growing, and then it stops, and it looks like it's at like an abandoned like amusement park. And so he finally finds Delirium, and he looks at this sundial, and he was like, this is a beautiful sundial. And Delirium's like, I hate it. It doesn't work. It just stays on one spot. And I really felt bad for Delirium because one thing, and because it just came to me, one thing that Delirium said when she first met up with Dream that like really was like, dang, I kind of been there, when she was like, I feel like a place that nobody ever goes anymore. And I was like, dang, she feels abandoned. And that is like a very like, when you feel abandoned or left behind, that is such an isolating feeling. And I've been there. So when she said it, I was like, wow. Like, girl, I get it. And I was like, that's such a way to put it. Like, I feel like a place that nobody ever goes anymore. Because, you look at abandoned buildings and it's like depressing. So I was like, oh God, y'all, check up on y'all sister. Dang. So he's like, ugh. So he was like, yeah, it's still a nice sundial, Delirium. So we actually see Dream apologize to Delirium, where she was like, do you even like me? And Delirium looks at him and he's like, well, you surprise me, which most people can't do. So I think I do like you, and she smiles, and he also apologizes for tricking her, because he ends up saying, if someone were to do what I did to you, I would never forgive them. So I understand your anger and your frustrations, and I'm sorry. And so he was like, let's continue looking for destruction. And she's like, what about Nada? And he was just like, I think I'm gonna just let that go, because I think Dream is starting to realize, like, you have to start taking ownership and respecting people's wishes. Because, bro, it's a lot with you right now. So now that Delirium and Dream are in a good space, they decide to continue their quest. But they decide not to go to the last person that's on the list because they don't want any harm to be done to them. So they decide to go to Destiny because they're like, he has to know something. Destiny that book tells him what's going to happen and what is to happen, so like, or what has already happened. Like he knows something. So they pull up on Destiny in his room, and he already know they're gonna be there, and he's like, I'm not helping y'all. And they're like, Destiny, just help us. And Destiny's like, I'm not doing it. And Dream is like, I know there's an oracle that can help us find our brother. We need an oracle that is of the family. Like, we have to have somebody. And Destiny's like, you know who that person is, Dream? And Dream is like, who? And he said, Orpheus. And Dream immediately goes into despair. He like, oh, not my son. So he sits down. We have this moment where Delirium is trying to ask Dream, is he okay? And it's mad at Destiny for what he's done. But Destiny is like, y'all asked me for this information. So then she kind of like threatens not even kind of, she threatens Destiny in a sense, being like, I remember when I was the light, and I know the things that I saw that made me delirium, and not everything is in that book. And Destiny is like, oh, I don't even know why you got an attitude with me. Y'all came knocking at my door, okay? Calm down, girl. So then Dream is in a depressive state, and Delirium is trying to get him out of it. And then it segues into the story about his son Orpheus. So we go like 1,000 years back, and Orpheus is like laid out on the beach sleep, and then he wakes up after having a nightmare or a vision, or is it a premonition about his soon-to-be wife dying in his arms. And he talks to his father, and he's like, I had this dream, like, can you help me interpret it, father? And Dream doesn't even try to help. He's like, don't worry about it, knowing good and well what he saw was probably about to happen. Okay. And so Calliope, who we saw last season, Dream's ex-wife, is like, come on, like, you don't want to be late for your wedding. So we see them actually arrive to the place where they're going to get married. And then we see all of the endlesses there. Even Destruction is there at the wedding. So we see this moment where they're all giving, Eurydice, who is going to be Orpheus' soon-to-be wife, and him words of encouragement. Despair tickled me when she was like, most marriages end in misery. And Desire pushed her to the side. I hope you get all your heart's desire. Like, girl, why would you say that? And Despair is just like, it's true. Then Delirium is like, well, I think I was about to be married once, but yeah, I think I messed that up. So then they end up, Orpheus ends up asking Destiny, like, are you not going to bless our union? And he was like, I don't need to bless something because I already know what's about to, like, you know, what is to come. I said, okay, sir. Okay, like, calm down. So we see them get married, and they have the reception. We then end up seeing Orpheus and Eurydice go outside to like have alone time. She gets bit by a poisonous snake and she dies. And Orpheus, like his daddy, Morpheus, aka Dream, is a crash out and very emotional, okay, and irrational at times. And pretty much he's freaking out. And we see Death basically take Eurydice to the underworld, pretty much. So unfortunately, we have the funeral. Dream is like, where's Orpheus? Calliope is like, he not ready for this. And Orpheus is like, Morpheus, aka Dream, is like, he need to be here. He needs to say goodbye. So we have this scene of Dream and Orpheus sitting on the beach. And Orpheus, like I said, he's irrational. He's a crash out like his daddy and very emotional. He is pleading and begging Dream to help him go to the underworld and retrieve Eurydice's soul. And Dream is like, I'm not going to do that because in exchange, they're going to want your soul. And I'm not going to give up my son's soul for some girl. I'm not going to do it. I'm not. And Dream is actually being rational and telling him eventually you will move on from this and it will hurt less and less as time goes on. And Orpheus like, it won't. And if you don't help me with this, you're not my father. So Dream says, you know what? You speaking nonsense. I'm going to get up before I smack you. Okay. So then we actually see Orpheus about to jump off a cliff and Destruction has to tell him, calm down. Go talk to your aunt. So we actually see Destruction open up a portal or the door to Death's room. And I thought it was interesting that her room was just this really nice apartment. And it's like, so it's so jarring to Orpheus because he's like, I've never seen these things. He's looking at like a record player. He sees a fish in a bowl. He sees an actual couch and a fireplace. Like, he's like, this is so crazy. Like, I've never seen these things. And so Death knows why he's here because Death is like, I am the future. I'm basically everybody's future. So they sit down and Orpheus is like, please let me go to the underworld. Please take me to the underworld. And Death is like, if I take you to the underworld, I have to make a deal where that means I will never come and collect your souls because the living is not supposed to be in the underworld. And Orpheus is like, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with being immortal. And Death is like, do you really understand what you're asking for? And he's like, yes. Because she's like, look at me. And I said, girl, you can tell that he's a crash out. He was going to find his way either way. So Death actually takes Orpheus to the underworld. And mind you, I expected the underworld to look different. Like, I understand why people didn't want to go there because I don't think in Greek mythology they had a heaven. So it's like you just go to the underworld just to be there, just to stand there for the rest of eternity, because that's what their underworld looked like. Like, he walks around and it's very dank and scary, and there's just souls like just standing around, just people that look like um what do they call, like astral projections of stuff with blue souls just standing there. And so he runs into the kindly ones and they're like, what are you doing down here, like son of like Morpheus? And he's like, I came here for my wife. We then get this cool scene of like Hades and Persephone. I did not expect them to be like the size of the Lincoln Memorial. Like they're huge. And they're kind of like, what you doing down here, boy? And he's like, I came here for my lady, we're in love. And then Persephone is like, haven't you sung for us before? And he's like, probably. And they were like, do it for us again. So he sings. And I think like Orpheus is like maybe part siren, part muse, because is that what Calliope is? Is Calliope a siren or a muse or a demigod? Because his voice is mesmerizing. Like legit, he starts to sing and all the souls start to float in the air. He makes one of the kindly ones start crying, and even Hades and Persephone are taken back by what they are seeing. So that kind of moves them to be like, okay, we'll let you take your wife out of here, but on one condition. You have to walk out of here without knowing that she's following you. And you can't turn around, but the moment you turn around, she will be here with us forever. Like, you will not be able to come and get her, okay, until it's time for you to die, basically. And so he's like, bet. So they're walking out, and then the closer they get to the exit out of the underworld, he decides to be a dummy and turns around because he doesn't hear her, but she actually was following him, and boom, bam, pow, she vanishes, and he loses her forever. So now Orpheus is like distraught. He's distraught, he's upset, and he wants to die now, but he can't because he's immortal. Because now he can't be with Eurydice anymore. So we actually see him talking to his mother Calliope on the beach, and he's like, I wanna die. And Calliope says, you know what? It should have been your father that went down there. Okay, it shouldn't have been you. And she was like, I left him. He's never gonna change. So I said, so Dream has always been the problem. He's the problem. He's the drama. He's the issue. And so Orpheus is like, what should I do now other than, try to like end my existence? And Calliope's like, no, come with me. We'll figure this out. We have to leave now because the sisters or the daughters of Frenzy, but I think it's the sisters of Frenzy, have been ransacking villages and killing animals wherever they go. So they did not explain to me, because I thought maybe they were like evil beings, but I think they're a cult. And it's scary. They were scary. And Orpheus is like, no, I'm going to go and find them, and hopefully they can end my existence. He finds them in the woods. When I tell you, they rip him up to pieces, like legit. Like they hack him up, eat his like arms and legs, and then leave just his head. And I guess they threw the head like off like a cliff, but then his head washes up onto the beach, and Dream ends up finding him, and Dream basically tells Orpheus, I have instructed these priests to take care of you for the remainder of your existence. And Orpheus like, Father, just kill me. And he's like, I'm not doing that. So, bye, Orpheus. And Orpheus is crying out to his dad, begging him to just do it. He's like, please, just end me now. And he's like, I'm not doing that. It's not happening. It's not happening. So then Dream basically comes to after the backstory ends and tells Delirium, we have to go. And Delirium is like, maybe we shouldn't do this. Now that she realizes that the Oracle is Orpheus, and she's just like, maybe we shouldn't do this. And Dream is like, no, we started this, so let's finish it. Okay. So that's how episode 5 ends. So episode 6 opens up, and we actually end up seeing Dream and Delirium pull up on to the temple of Orpheus. And baby, these two dudes, like, well, I don't even call, because one was a child. I'm guessing they're like brothers, but it looked like one of the brothers had to be like in his early 20s, and the other one looked like he was every bit of like maybe like 13 years old. They pull out guns. I said, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? And they're at the temple, and this older gentleman comes out, and he's like, who are you? Can I help you? And Dream is like, I want to see my son. And so the guy's like, are you Apollo? Like, And Dream is like, I'm here to see my son. Let me see my son. So then we see Orpheus. He is just ahead, and he's actually excited to see Dream. He actually is like, I can't believe you're here. He actually apologizes to his dad, saying that you were trying to protect me and I should have listened to you. And Dream actually apologizes to his son, genuinely apologizes, saying, "No, I messed up. I should have helped you." He also explains that the only reason why I haven't come and visited you, or why I didn't help you back then to go to the underworld, is like I couldn't think of a world where you didn't exist. So that's why I didn't help. So then they give us a flashback of where we see Joanna Constantine. And remember, we saw her last season, and it's like the around the time of the French Revolution, and we find out that someone has actually stole Orpheus from the temple. And Dream basically tells her, "Hey girl, I need you to go get my son's head, and I'll give you whatever your heart desires." And so she's like, "Okay, bet. I'll pull up, I'll get the head, and you'll give me whatever I want." So she actually gets the head, and it's a lot of hijinks that ensue. She gets the head. She almost gets stopped and like killed by these two like revolutionaries in a sense, who don't like the aristocrats and stuff, because her name is Lady Constantine, so she is an aristocrat, and she has to lie and say that like this guy harmed her sister and she was bringing back the severed head as a trophy to the mother. But this puts like an alert out on for her, and we find out that actually it was the French government that stole Orpheus because they no longer wanted the leaders to be taking what's the word? To be taking like advisement from him. We end up meeting this one guy, and I cannot remember his name, antagonist of this situation right here, where he basically is trying to condemn Joanna Constantine to death because she has the head and won't give it to him. We actually see them actually lock her up. She goes back to the dreaming world, and we find out that Orpheus still like has love for his father. He basically admits that like his dad was right, and that also he's kind of like worried about his dad. And it's crazy because Dream is also worried about him, because the first thing Orpheus asks Joanna, like, how is my father, like, is he doing well? And she doesn't answer. She kind of just is like, we should go to bed. But you can tell that she likes Orpheus. And then when she's in the dreaming realm in jail, because she got locked up because they found out that she was the one that stole Orpheus, Dream asks the same thing, like, is he doing okay? And she was like, he asked me the same thing about you. And Dream is like, but you didn't tell him how I feel, right? And she was like, no, I didn't respond. I did not respond. So she's like, I'm in prison. They're about to like send me to the gallows, and your son is in a pile of corpses. Like, you need to help me out. So Dream is like, well, did he offer to ever sing for you? And she was like, yeah, but I stopped him from doing it because I thought it would bring us more, attention. He was like, take them to my son and ask him to sing because he will sing. So we actually get this scene where they take Joanna to a pile of severed heads, which this guy, I wish I remember, I think he's like the ruler of the coup that is happening, is like, I know he's in here, so just bring the head to me. So then she finds Orpheus's head and she asks him to sing. And when he starts singing, he sings like the French liberation song. And then it actually wakes up all the other severed heads to start singing. And then people outside can hear it, and it causes them to actually turn against the guy who basically caused the revolution, or is causing the torture of the peasant people, and they actually cut his head off. Okay. And we actually see Joanna give the head back to the priest of Orpheus. And we see Dream and Joanna have a conversation. And Dream is like, so what do you want? And she decides that she just wants more time with Orpheus. We actually get back to present time, and we see her tombstone and grave on the island of where Orpheus is. And basically what we find out is that destruction is on the opposite island that's across the ocean, and that is where he is, and that is what Orpheus tells them. We finally see them meet Destruction. Destruction is like low-key gagged that they found him, but he accepts it. He's happy to see both of them. They actually sit in his house, And we have this moment where it's like big brother, little brother, where Dream is chastising Destruction for leaving his realm, and you think Destruction is about to get angry, but he like holds it in, and it's kind of like, I'm above that now. um Mind you, the olives that Delirium was eating looked delicious. Okay, so then they start talking about like why he left and everything. He even shows them his scrying table and all of that stuff. But while they're sitting at the table, they were like, you know, those people died. Those were your friends. Like, why would you allow that to happen? And Destruction was like, well, the way that it's set up, once the fail safe is there, it is what it is. Like, I can't stop it. And so Dream is like, you killed a bunch of people. Like, you didn't have to do that. Like, you really didn't have to do that. And so Destruction is actually surprised that Dream cares about the mortals, because he was like, years ago, you would have told me it wasn't that big of a deal. But the fact that you care says that you have changed. You really have changed. So we find out that Destruction is like, you know what, y'all found me. I knew y'all was going to find me. I had a feeling that it was time for me to move on from this place. And Delirium doesn't want him to go because she's like, I'm going to be alone again. And he's like, no, you're not. You didn't come here by yourself. And she was like, oh, you're right. But he ends up giving her Barnabas. Barnabas is kind of sad, but he's just like, where Destruction is like, where I'm going, you can't go. So please stay by Delirium's side and, help her and all of that stuff. So Dream and him have a conversation where Destruction basically says, I left because I loved them. Basically, I loved humanity so much that I could no longer participate in their demise. He said, like, you may think I'm selfish. You may think I'm a coward. You may think I'm horrible for like dodging my responsibilities. But at the end of the day, I left because I no longer could do this anymore. And he was like, to me, I did it out of love. And that's why you should always do things out of love. And for some reason, that really does kind of strike a nerve with Dream, because Destructions ends up saying that you have changed, and that's the only thing advice I can give to you. And he says all of that after Dream tells him, the way that we found you is because I talked to Orpheus. And Destruction is like, you really talked to Orpheus to find me? Like, that's deep, bro. That's deep. So we actually end up seeing Destruction leave. He takes his sword because he doesn't want it to fall into the wrong hands, because it is super powerful, and he ends up turning into like stardust. But he talks about how like the stars always feel like permanent. You never know when they're gonna explode, disintegrate, and go away. So he's like, that's where I want to be. And they kind of wish him well. And then the next thing we see is Dream going back to Orpheus, and I was not expecting him to gouge his eyes out. Like, he kisses his son on the forehead, and his son kind of just like accepts it because that's what he always wanted. And I said, oh. And then he has his son's like blood on his hands, and Delirium thanks him for pretty much, helping her. She's like, thank you for helping me. And so we have this moment where they just kind of part ways. Like, I thought it was going to be more sentimental than that, but it was just like, we came here, we did a task, let's move on. So he ends up back in his realm, and he tells Lucian that they found Destruction, that he also had to meet Orpheus, and in order for him to meet Destruction, he had to give Orpheus a boon, basically repay a debt. And so she knows what that meant, which means, taking Orpheus's life. And so we see Dream, and you can tell that this is really like messing with his mind. Like, it's messing with his mind, because there's a moment where he's trying to wash the blood off his hands and he can't get it off fast enough. And then he just starts breaking down. Now, the reason why Destiny was trying to tell Dream, you should end this quest, because he knew he was going to go see Orpheus, is because the endless are not to spill each other's blood. Because if they do, they basically are like, they're erased. Their existence is erased. So with Dream doing what he has done, now the kindly ones are coming after him to erase him from existence. We have this moment where the kindly ones are like making, like, I think it's the mother is making like this sweater, and then the maiden is like helping. They're like in this nice cozy house, and then the crone comes, and there's like, she's like, anybody of you, like, y'all want tea? Any of y'all want tea? And they're like, oh yeah, the maiden's like, I'll take some tea. And so while the crone is like pouring the tea, and the mother is like, crocheting, and no, I don't think she was knitting the scarf. The crone basically says, it's time, like, we have waited long enough. And I think it was the maiden that was like, well, Orpheus wanted to die, like, we should not have to come after Dream. And the crone is like, well, he spilled family blood, they're not supposed to do that, so we have to do a job, and time is ticking. So she cuts the string, and now, like, that's where this part of the season ends. So it definitely means that, like, they coming for him. In the trailer, he gonna be fighting for his life. He even brought back Corinthian. You know it's bad when you gotta bring back Corinthian. So yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. As always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in the comments below and subscribe and like the video, okay? And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.